Welcome, everyone. I know that people may still be hopping on as we're pretty much one right on the dot, but we do want to go ahead and get started to make efficient use of everyone's time. My name is Rebecca Hammonds, and I'm the Community Relations Officer for TDOT Region 3, which is Middle Tennessee. And Brian, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brian Ledford. I'm the Executive Director of TDOT's Public-Private Partnership Division.
And Brian's going to tell you a little bit more about what that actually means here in a minute, but I just wanted to set the stage for today's event. So this is a live stream event. I know many of us have participated in plenty of virtual meetings where you can interact. You can still interact with us. It just won't be via camera or chat. Talking. It'll be chat just through the chat box on the screen. We will be sure to answer all of your questions at the end of this, but right now everyone's muted except for us, and we just want to make sure to get all the information to you first. So again, the purpose of this event is to introduce this project to all of you. And you may be asking who is on this event, who has been invited. These are stakeholders in the 24 corridor area. That means agencies, municipalities, transit groups, businesses. All of these folks will be impacted in some form or fashion by this project. So we want to make sure to bring you along as early as possible and as often as possible with us in this process. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brian and we will get started.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. We'll start by just giving a brief overview of the Transportation Modernization Act. The Transportation Modernization Act was legislation that passed last year that one of the big aspects of it was that it generated a $3.3 billion general fund transfer into infrastructure. One of the largest investments in infrastructure in Tennessee's history. $3 billion of that went toward transportation projects, programs, but $300 million of it went straight to counties, which represented a huge influx of investment, 15 times what counties normally receive for their infrastructure programs. So aside from the $3.3 billion, the Transportation Modernization Act did three big things. First, it enabled public-private partnerships, or P3s as we call them. This is where TDOT, the state, partners with private developers to build choice lanes, which frees up a lot of public funding to be used in other areas of the state. So this is an urban congestion solution. Secondly, it expanded alternative delivery. Alternative delivery is design build. It's construction manager, general contractor. It's progressive design build, performance-based maintenance contracts. These are new and innovative contracting methods that allow TDOT to bring value, speed to our procurement process. And then thirdly, it established electric vehicle parity. We all know that the number of electric vehicles on the road is on the rise. The number of gas burning vehicles is declining. So our primary source of revenue for projects is the gas tax. And as that is a diminishing stream of revenue, the electric vehicle parity really allows all users of the roadway to share equally to fund infrastructure. So our annual program is approximately $1.2 billion per year normally, plus or minus. The Transportation Modernization Act infused $3.3 billion of additional funding. If you take off the $300 million that went straight to the counties, you're left with a $15 billion program for the next decade. So let's talk about what choice lanes are, and I'll start out by talking about what they're not. They're not toll roads, and this is really the first that some folks hear about our choice lanes initiative is uh, that we're building toll roads, and that's just not true. Uh, these are new, privately financed, price managed lanes that allow the users flexibility as to whether they want to get in these lanes or not. The key to this is that they're designed, built, financed, operated, and maintained by a private sector partner. So this is private investment into our infrastructure. They'll always be owned by TDOT, but the private sector is investing to build these lanes, uh, and the way that they generate, the way that they pay for those is by charging uh, uh, user fees in those lanes. So some of the benefits of choice lanes for transit that uh, are this is one of the largest benefits for an urban area really is how transit can benefit, and you see that through more reliable trip times. You see it through improved transit movements. Uh, you can imagine uh, new routes that might be created. You can imagine some express routes that might be created. Uh, and and transit buses will always use the choice lanes for free. That's a given. So what we see is that because uh, buses use the lanes for free, uh, we see really predictable trip times, reliable trip times, which lead to increased ridership. Uh, and if more folks are riding, are participating in transit, we see a decrease in congestion on the roadway. So uh, here's what's happened in other states. I mean, the Texas saw a 73% increase in customers due to the reliability of transit in their choice lanes. Florida DOT, 68% reduction in travel times, and ridership quadrupled over a 5-year period. It's exciting to think about what how many multiples of the existing ridership we could see in southeast area of Nashville. And then Georgia DOT saw increases in on-time performance. So public-private partnerships, as I said, it's a vehicle where you allow a private entity, a private developer, to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain new lanes. These are in addition to our existing lanes, and we call those choice lanes because it's always the rider's choice as to whether they get in those lanes. If you think about, like I said, our annual program is $1.2 billion. You look at improvements that may cost multiple billions of dollars. And so you imagine without this infusion of private investment, it's hard to think about how long it would take TDOT with the current funding levels to build these types of improvements. So it's really accelerates the delivery of much needed urban congestion projects. So we our research took us to four corridors that led to further study. I-65 and I-24 in Middle Tennessee, I-24 in Chattanooga, and I-40 west of Knoxville. And so those four corridors uh, were analyzed, and we looked at things like what is the congestion levels, what would the capital investment be required to make improvements on those. And we also heard feedback from the development industry as to what corridors they saw as really being ready now. It's not a matter of whether these are good corridors or not. It's a matter of what's ready now. So that really led us to our first choice lane corridor, which is I-24 between Nashville and Murfreesboro. Our Transportation Modernization Board about 3 weeks ago voted unanimously to approve this corridor for further development. So, ongoing activities, we're analyzing traffic, we're doing environmental field studies, survey work. Some upcoming activities are developing conceptual design, furthering the environmental work, the environmental documents, making some policy decisions, some commercial policy decisions about how those choice lanes will work. And then engaging with you, including our transit partners. And that engagement, it's our expectation that engagement will be ongoing throughout the project. So again, I've touched on some of these benefits. We'll hit them again. Trip times. If you travel this corridor now, you know that those trip times can be unreliable. You can imagine a user of this facility, a mom or a dad who needs to get from Nashville to Murfreesboro to pick up their child from daycare. The fine to be late is dollars per minute. And so on that day, they choose to get in the choice lanes and pay a user fee that affords them a reliable trip time to get there on time, avoid that fee from the daycare facility. More time with our families. Anytime we can shave 20, 30, 40 minutes out of our day and have that with our families. Air quality. You can imagine the impact to air quality from vehicles that are either sitting still or moving very slowly. That if anything that we do that relieves congestion and makes this a more free-flowing corridor, that's going to be an improvement to air quality. Less traffic. One of the big benefits that all of us get, whether we choose to jump in those choice lanes or not, and I, folks who tell me they don't want to pay a user fee, the answer is don't pay the user fee. Then stay in the lane you're in, and you'll experience a shorter trip time without paying a dime. And so that's a huge benefit that we all get, not just the folks who choose to use the choice lanes. Again, we talked about transit choices, enhanced transit options. I think more routes, more reliable routes are a benefit to this. So, and then, the positive impact to the regional economy. If we're moving people, which is what TDOT does, if we're moving people more efficiently with less congestion, the impact to the economy really kind of speaks for itself. So here's our timeline. As I said, the board approved this project in February. We're engaged in our environmental studies. You'll see public information meetings. We want to see you there in the third quarter of this year. Some public hearings, first quarter of next year, and what we call commercial close, which is when pretty much all the elements of the public-private partnership agreement have been agreed to in the third quarter of 2026. And throughout all of this, you see that community and stakeholder engagement bar across the bottom. Again, we need to hear from you. We see this as being a program that's going to have great benefits for everyone, but we want to hear about how this may be impacting you. So I'll turn it over to Rebecca to talk about our community engagement.
That's where I come into play.
Yeah.
So what
Thank
you
you.
all are seeing right now is a map that just exemplifies a small sampling of some of the stakeholders that we are engaging with or that are on the call hopefully today. You can see local municipalities, transit agencies, businesses, chamber. I mean, there are plenty of people to reach out to, right? This is a large area. And we sent this even today to almost a couple hundred entities, businesses, people, to make sure that, like I said earlier, bring you all along with us in this process because your input is critical. So what you're seeing now are a few of those ways that we or you can get involved. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you to our Choice Lanes webpage. There's a ton of really great information there. Even if you don't necessarily want to get involved, you can at least educate yourself or others. There's a lot of information there. But you can see there are a few ways to be involved. So one of those being toolkits that you can share with your constituents or customers. And even a speaker request form. So what we're doing today, you can request for us to come visit your group, agency, whatever it may be, and share information like this. And then, of course, we want you all to stay involved in this process. And then because it's so early in this process, I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. He's going to tell us exactly where we are currently, which is an environmental study.
Sure. So right now we're engaged in a what's called a PEL study, a planning and environmental linkages study. And if you see the routes that are highlighted in light blue and dark blue on the map, those are all routes that experience significant urban congestion that we're looking at the benefits and impacts of proposed improvements in those areas. So what this PEL study does is it really tees up the environmental the NEPA process, which is a more specific environmental document that speaks to a particular corridor, which will be our I-24 corridor. So some of the objectives of the PEL: get out and do advanced studies, engage with the public. I think the stakeholders on this call are I-24 Southeast Corridor stakeholders. We want to engage with pretty much the entire Nashville metro area because the PEL study really looks at congestion all over Nashville. So, we'll examine how we may be able to use choice lanes to alleviate not just the I-24 corridor congestion, but also elsewhere in Nashville. And then, as I said, this PEL study really informs the NEPA class of action and recommended projects that may come out of this study.
So what we want to make sure to clarify, though, is that this PEL study, it's our next component of engagement in light of all of this, right? But it is not directly tied to choice lanes. It's setting the stage for this entire southeast, or really the downtown south portion of the loop, and what that map showed, to set the stage for this project, as well as future projects, other projects that may not be choice lanes. It's really an effort on our department side of things to gather as much information as possible and set the stage for just further development. But as you can see here, this public engagement event is the next piece to all of this as far as you are concerned. So you can see it will be a month-long engagement event, but it's not in person. It is something that you can participate in or view on your own accord. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to our webpage, and that will be live on the 1st, where you'll essentially enter a virtual meeting room. and you can examine all of the materials and give your feedback as public comment. And again, that's going to be the 1st through the 30th. But after that, we still want to hear from you. This is going to be a long process, as he said in the timeline. We've got some time here. So these are just a few ways that you can participate or engage with us. We have our email there that is specific to the actual Choice Lanes project. You can send us your questions, concerns, whatever it may be. We obviously have our webpage. We do have a hotline that you can call into if you don't have access to a computer, or if you know folks who don't. And then, of course, social media. We want people to be engaged with us. We've already been doing a lot on social media as far as Choice Lanes go. So at that point, we've wrapped up with what we have to tell you. So now we hope you can tell us your questions. So I know that the chat is available to you. And it looks like we already have some questions. So I'm going to read the first one. Is the goal to make traveling to Nashville so expensive and/or time? Oh, well, that one disappeared. Sorry.
There we go.
Ah, there we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so is the goal to make traveling to Nashville so expensive and/or time-consuming that more industries will seek to relocate to rural communities instead, parentheses, and bring those jobs to those areas?
Yeah, I think congestion is already here. We've seen I think 600,000 folks moved to Tennessee between 2010 and 2020. That's like dropping a Davidson County down into Tennessee over a 10-year period. So the growth is here. It's real. Congestion is already here, and the question is, what options do we have to alleviate congestion? And as I said, with a $1.2 billion annual program for projects and programs, the congestion relief in urban areas is tough because we have counties all across Tennessee that they have good projects too.
Yeah.
So really, choice lanes are a way to let urban congestion pay for urban congestion. And as I said earlier, folks don't have to choose to get in these lanes. They don't have to pay anything. In this stretch of corridor, there are pretty much 4 general purpose lanes in each direction today. When we finish this project, there will be 4 general purpose lanes in each direction. You can stay in the lane that you have right now, pay nothing, and experience a shorter trip time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, I hope we're understanding your question correctly, but I would say the goal really isn't to necessarily drive industry one way or another, but really to just bring relief to like folks like you or I. Like he said, industry's here and congestion's here. And I think I heard someone say just the other day that there are daycares in Rutherford County that stay open until 8 p.m. because so many people can't get there on time. And that speaks volumes to, what we just as moms and dads have to deal with all the time. And so we want to help that situation, alleviate that pressure. Anybody else have any other questions?
So I'm just gonna keep publishing them for you to check out.
Yeah, okay. Not a question, but it's good to see the transit connection. That's great. Thank you so much. It's important to us.
And it's good that we can show you what the results have been in other states. You don't have to take our word for it.
Real
you can
data.
see real results in other states, and excited to see how this interacts with other transit initiatives that are ongoing in the area.
Yeah.
Next.
Does private investors mean that it's partly funded through ridership costs from users or the private business community?
So so private developers finance the construction of the project. So they do that with a mix of what we've seen in other projects is they've done that with a mix of debt, of some private activity bonding that they do, not the state of Tennessee, and then equity. They bring in equity from, it could be pension funds. Infrastructure is seen as a place where a lot of pension fund type investors feel comfortable. So we've seen that both in Europe and in the managed lanes that have been done so far in the U.S. So the project is built and financed by this private sector partner, and they pay back their debt, they pay off their bonds, and they pay back their equity investment over some long term by collecting user fees. Yes.
Next.
Okay, I'm still a bit confused on funding. Where is the private investment coming from? Just those who choose it to use it, and what's the cost for use, even a guesstimate? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just answered where's the funding come from. The repayment of that investment is what comes over time. And this could be a 40, 50 year period where that developer is collecting user fees to pay back that investment. And in terms of what's the cost to use,
Right.
you know, I guess I can go ahead and talk about it. It will be the cost to use will be dynamically set. And that is because we will ask that developer, that concessionaire is another term, we'll ask them to guarantee a minimum speed in those choice lanes. And so let's say it's 55 miles an hour. They have to guarantee that folks who get in those lanes are going to experience a minimum of a 55 mile an hour speed. That means they can't have a user fee that's so low that everyone gets in there, or they can't guarantee that speed. So the user fees will increase or decrease as congestion increases and decreases, such that when you get in that lane, if you choose to pay that dynamically set fee, you're guaranteed I'm going to move at least 55 miles an hour, or whatever we choose to say.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there will be signs as you head toward these lanes telling you what the cost is at that time.
It's not a bait and switch.
Yeah.
Whatever you see on the sign when you go under it, that's what you're
right.
gonna pay.
And like he was explaining, like I'm going to choose, if I choose to get in that lane, it's because I need to get somewhere pretty quickly. So if they were to keep it at a minimum cost all the time, like he said, I wouldn't be moving quick. I would be in traffic just like everyone else. So think about it. A dynamic pricing is what it's called, but it's like a surge price. Like it's going to change on any given ride, essentially.
Okay. I think it's the same question.
Okay, how many choice lanes? Question mark. Your pick showed two. Yeah, your pick showed 2 lanes. Is it cost per driver, cost per car, how much per month, et cetera, et cetera? So we did kind of address the cost. It's going to be cost per ride. Per trip. That's better. And then as far as lanes themselves, that image was correct. That's going to be 2 lanes each direction. And again, those are 2 additional lanes. So right now, what's already there will remain free, and it will remain open to everyone. These will be 2 new lanes in each direction that you can then choose to use or not.
Right. And in terms of cost per car, cost per trip, the primary means of paying those user fees will be through having a transponder. And there'll be quite a push to get those transponders out, into the public and to folks who may want to use choice lanes from time to time. And that transponder charge will be the most attractive. That will be the least amount that anyone would pay, would be the folks who have the transponder in their vehicle.
Okay. Will the choice lanes require I-24 to be widened? If so, what impact will that have to all of the new smart corridor development added over the last few years? So yeah, this has been something we've been talking about a lot because you're right. We just implemented the smart corridor, which is showing great results at this point. But a lot of it is still to be determined as far as design and scope goes. But we do know that the smart corridor is going to be really critical during the construction or implementation because we will need to manage that traffic. And then even afterward, it will still be used and be critical to managing the current traffic in those lanes.
That's right. And I mean, it's really exciting to think about how the incremental improvement we saw with the smart corridor can be taken even further with the amount of technology that will be added as part of the smart corridor improvement or the choice lane improvements.
Are the additional lanes needed to make room for choice lanes possible via vertical or elevated road construction, or is widening and eminent domain to accommodate that more likely?
Right now, we're in very early design. There are stretches of the corridor that that lend themselves to widening. There will be right-of-way impacts. We're working very hard to minimize those. We as with any widening project or improvement to infrastructure, you want to make sure that the benefits to the community far outweigh the inconveniences or the cost. And with this influx of private investment, this is not Tennessee tax dollars, private investment, building this infrastructure, I think the benefits are very evident.
And to just build upon your question about like elevated or vertical. So we're looking at all options, right? When he says we're early in the design phase, I mean, we're on paper, we're still doing environmental studies. So we're still very early in all of this, like he said. But that being said, we're looking at everything to make sure that we're doing what's right and best for the community. Captain Raymond Jones, Metro Nashville Police, thank you for putting your name and saying hello. Was there any data on the interstate fatality numbers for Texas Department of Transportation, FDOT, GDOT related to the choice lanes?
Captain Jones, I don't have that, but we'll absolutely get that data and we'll get it to you, and that'll be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Safety is certainly paramount, and we want to make sure that whatever we do has a beneficial effect to the types of numbers, the types of statistics that you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay.
How would toll lanes help in the event of a major traffic incident that causes an interstate shutdown, which happens frequently?
On the off chance that there is a total shutdown of the interstate, that's a special case. And at that point, lanes are lanes, and we're going to move folks as safely through an incident area as possible. And in other states, choice lane operators absolutely understand that and welcome that, because these are lanes that are side by side, and we have to. This is a partnership, and working together is part of that. So I hear what you're saying, and that is absolutely accommodated in other states.
Yeah, and I think one of the many things that we're determining as we define scope and design and all of those things. Will there be transponders, or is the plan to use license plate readers? If transponders, will there be discounts for frequent flyers or engagement with businesses to educate employees? It's a good
I
question.
can answer, yes, some of this
Yeah.
I can answer now. Absolutely, there will be transponders and
Can you read again?
and
If transponders, will they be discounts for frequent flyers? License
yeah,
plate
and that
readers.
if someone doesn't have a transponder, then the fallback is license plate reader. Obviously, we would rather all of our local folks have a transponder. It's easier for you. It's easier for the folks that are collecting user fees. License plate readers are the backup position, and those work very well. And the technology for these types of programs is advancing every year. You can imagine how that's come along from early versions. But frequent flyer discounts, a lot of those types of decisions are they're up to the entity that's providing the choice lane experience and the value proposition. And so that's probably not for me to say as to whether that's not something that we would dictate to a private entity who's operating these privately funded choice lanes.
But to your point about engagement and education, the implementation of these transponders and software and how it will work will be something that we will be tackling and messaging very aggressively on the front end, because if people don't understand how they can get something like this on their car, then what's the point, right? So we will be making sure to engage with folks like you, but the general public on a wide scale, and educate and teach and make sure people know, hey, we're going to go live at such and such date and time, but be sure to have your transponder ready so you can jump in those lanes. So that's going to be something that will be very aggressive about messaging.
And the days of having a transponder that you go and pay $50 or $100 for, and it sits on your dash and it looks like a radar detector, those days are long gone. This is pretty much a smart sticker that will go up high in your windshield, and it will be read by the technology as you drive through.
Besides transit vehicles being able to use the choice lanes, will there be opportunities to develop associated infrastructure like park and rides, crucial to access transit and make it successful? Would the state allow for use of their right-of-way to facilitate that?
Well, I'll start with the end of that question. There's not, along the initial corridor, there's not a lot of spots where we have any surplus right away. Now, having said that, we're absolutely willing to engage with transit agencies and talk about what makes sense and really benchmark with what has been done in other states and see how that has worked for them. And again, it's you have another partner at the table, and that's a private entity that's investing and going into debt. And so, finding what makes sense for everyone in the equation is going to be key to that communication.
Yeah. Will the choice lanes be permeable, i.e. driving over painted lines, or non-permeable, separate, obviously? Will it be possible for choice lane interchanges to exist in the future that deposits drivers directly onto the choice lane system and bypass the regular lane?
So the final design decisions have not been made as to whether this will be, separated by painted lines, flexible delineators, a hard barrier. Those are the types of decisions that we're going through, the process on now. In terms of choice lane interchanges, you look at other states and you absolutely see dedicated access points, both at existing interchanges and even at locations that are not existing interchanges, where it makes sense to provide access onto and off of these choice lanes. And those are some of the innovation and the ideas that the private sector brings to the table as we go through this procurement process.
So still very early for
Right.
us to really give
Right.
hard answers there. May we promote visits to the website to members and other organizations? Are live presentations possible to groups? If yes, any minimum size group? Thanks for this briefing. Congrats, QR code. Well, thank you.
Glad the QR code.
Yes, we're glad too. And I would say yes to all of those. I don't think there's like a minimum size. We really haven't even talked about that quite yet. I mean, I would say, I don't know if we're gonna come out for 3 or 4 people, but if you've got a team, a small group that you want to make sure to communicate this to, we're more than happy to come out.
Sure. If it's going to be one-on-ones, it's probably drinking coffee at McDonald's. That
Yeah,
makes
let's
sense
go
for
to
me.
Starbucks. But yes, thank you, Ralph. We do want to do things like this as often as we can. This is the important work. We know, obviously, design and structure is very important, but we want to make sure that Tennesseans understand what's coming. We know that the more information, the better the reception we hope will be. So thank you for wanting to do that, and we're happy to help out. You got any others?
Yeah, sorry, it
Just took a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, technology, all right. Will there be a cost incentive for securing a transponder and making regular payments? Or will the cost per trip be fixed regardless of how and when payment is collected?